Warm greetings from the high 10. 7-day shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. Thank you all for your patience. As most of you know who are following the content pertaining to the boys missing out of Cal City / Bakersfield, California, their attorneys, the attorneys for, Jacqueline and Trezell West spoke yesterday, and I'm going to bring you that said information. Thank you all so much for joining me. Some people just tick me off, and one of your saying just sticks in my head, so I don't use those foul words. Okay, that's okay. I've been noticing some things, so that's why the content will be short and to the point from now on. So don't worry about it, honey. Everything's okay. But thank you for joining me. I appreciate you tuning in, Small Fries. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining me. New subs, old subs, new visitors. Thank you all so much for joining me. 23 ABC is the source. Attorneys for Trezell and Jacqueline West take issue with DA's press conference. The defense counsel for Trezell and Jacqueline West, the adopted parents of Orrin and Orson West, held a press conference Monday to speak out on the charges their clients are facing. They accused District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer of making biased statements they believe could taint a jury pool. Tim Hennessy, led counsel for Trezell West, took issue with the Kern County District Attorney's Office press conference. Hennessy called the press conference disingenuous and could call for a change in venue in the future. Statements that have been used by the Kern County District Attorney in her press conference tend to invoke a tidal wave of emotion towards finding guilt, whether substantiated or not. Hennessy stated that statements made by Zimmer while discussing the case against Trezell and Jacqueline West could deny the adopted parents a chance at fair trial. Alexia Torres Stallings, attorney for Jacqueline West, added that the statements made by Zimmer can be misleading or taken as fact before the case even starts. When we hear stuff like, "we proved to the grand jury," "they were convinced," "they believe," that isn't the standard in which they make their finding. To us, it was more to clarify that it isn't the standard. That isn't to say that the grand jury aren't humans and that they obviously can't make up their own mind. It's just that that's not the same standard in which we know the standard to be, said Stallings. The attorneys were also critical of the grand jury process. Grand jury process lacks a crucial and important role of our criminal justice system, and that is the accused and their counsel being present during. There is no opportunity to cross-examine any witnesses, and it is basically ran by the district attorney, said Hennessy. 23 ABC reached out to the district attorney's office for a response to these allegations, but as of now, we have not received a statement. The trial is expected to begin May 23rd, but during Monday's conference, the defense attorney stated they are exploring a change of venue. Wow. It is something that we may be able to do considering the large amount of coverage that this case has gotten, said Stallings. A gag order has been requested by the district attorney's office on this case. The defense attorney said they plan to join in on the gag order to ensure that their jury pool isn't tainted. Trezell and Jacqueline West pleaded not guilty in court Thursday after being arrested for 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of child cruelty, and a false report of an emergency. This is 23 ABC in depth. The defense for Trezell and Jacqueline West is exploring the option of changing the venue for their upcoming trial. 23 ABC took an in-depth look at what this means exactly and why the defense may be pursuing this legal option. While venue may not be one of the most exciting legal topics to discuss, its importance on litigation cannot be understated. Venue can influence a case throughout all stages of litigation in many ways and can have a significant impact on the value of a case, explains the National Law Review. First, it's important to note that in a jury trial, the venue determines the jurors who may be selected that will ultimately decide a case. Certain venues may have had less media coverage of the case, meaning more potential jurors are less likely to be biased. Depending on the facts of the case and the parties involved, there may be a great advantage or disadvantage in a case being filed in the home base of one of the parties involved. Also, the venue can have an obvious effect on the convenience and costs associated with the trial. According to the Judicial Council of California, reasons for changes of venue include pretrial publicity, bias, political atmosphere, and any other circumstance that the parties believe would prevent them from obtaining a fair trial in the county in which the case was originally filed. Normally, 2 or 3 alternative sites are selected, but it is dependent on how many courts indicate they can take the case. Alternative sites are usually identified within 2 weeks. Once alternative sites are determined, the presiding judge discusses the locations with the parties, counsel, and schedules a hearing. Now, this is by ABC 23. If you need verification, below the article is the full press conference by the attorneys for Jacqueline and Trezell West at 30 minutes, 21 seconds. I'm going to play a clip of the what the attorneys had to say. It's about 2 minutes long. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
Well, it's been 6 days since the arrest of the adoptive parents of Orrin and Orson West. Today, their attorney spoke out for the first time. 23 ABC's Brianna Polk was at the defense counsel press conference today and joins us to explain the accusations being made against the district attorney's office. Brianna.
The attorneys defending the adoptive parents of Orson and Orrin West are accusing the district attorney, Cynthia Zimmer, of making biased statements that they believe could taint a jury pool.
Statements that have been used by the Kern County District Attorney in her press conference tend to invoke a tidal wave of emotion towards finding guilt, whether substantiated or not, and this will taint a local jury pool and could deny our clients a chance at a fair trial.
Timothy Hennessy, attorney for Trezell West, stated on Monday statements made by Kern County's District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer while discussing the case against Trezell and Jacqueline West could deny the adoptive parents a chance at fair trial. Alexia Torres-Stallings, attorney for Jacqueline West, added the statements made by Zimmer can be misleading or taken as fact.
When we hear stuff like, we proved to the grand jury, they were convinced, they believed, that isn't the standard in which they make their finding. And so to us, it was to more clarify that that isn't the standard. That isn't to say that the grand jury aren't humans and that they obviously can't make up their own mind. It's just that that's not the same standard in which we know the standard to be.
The attorneys were also critical of the grand jury process.
Grand jury process lacks a crucial and important role of our criminal justice system, and that is the accused and their counsel being present during. There is no opportunity to cross-examine any witnesses, and it is basically ran by the district attorney.
We did reach out to the district attorney's office and were told a response would be sent out addressing the allegation. We will provide an update as soon as we receive it. The trial is expected to begin May 23rd, but during Monday's conference, the defense attorney stated that they are exploring a change of venue.
It is something that we may be able to do considering the large amount of coverage that this case has garnered.
A gag order has been requested by the district attorney's office on this case. The defense attorney tells me they plan to join in on the gag order to ensure the jury pool isn't tainted. We will continue to follow this developing case and will bring you the latest as more information becomes available. In studio, Brianna Polk, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
All right, everybody, that's 23 ABC News. So, the information given by the district attorney last week pertaining to the indictments of Jacqueline and Trezell West, were they misleading? Were they biased? Was she too confident in the information that she brought forth? As I've stated in my commentary, per the information brought by the news sources, that she basically feels confident on the information that she has, the witnesses, evidentiary material. You're entitled to your opinion pertaining to what she said in the press conference. But these attorneys feel like that she showed bias and that she was misleading, basically, I guess, saying they've got the case sealed tight for a guilty verdict on all the counts in the said indictment pertaining to the defendants. It has also been mentioned that it is vote season. So could this be a hype of someone trying to be reinstated in their post that they currently hold right now as the district attorney? As I said, once again, you're entitled to your opinion. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. I'm going to now play you information from the YouTube queue. Thank you so much.
Trezell West, the adoptive parents charged with murder in the disappearance of Orrin and Orson West. Today, the attorneys representing the Wests spoke for the first time, lobbying accusations at the district attorney. 17's Christian Galeno joins us live now from downtown Bakersfield with more and the newest developments in this case. Good evening, Christian.
Good evening, Tammy. And yeah, that's right. That's right, Tammy. A very good evening to you now. The defense counsel for the adoptive parents of Orrin and Orson West accused District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer of not only misleading the public, but also preying on people's emotions during her press conference last week.
Why would you take this case?
It's been a case with 1,001 questions, and ever since the arrest of adoptive parents Jacqueline and Trezell West, questions keep coming. In a joint press conference Monday afternoon, defense attorneys are gearing up for a fight to defend the adoptive parents.
Statements that have been used by the Kern County District Attorney in her press conference tend to invoke a tidal wave of emotion towards finding guilt.
Both attorneys believe such statements by the DA can lead to an unfair trial for the West and even a change in venue. Jacqueline West is represented by Alexia Torres-Stalling, Trezell West by Timothy Hennessy. This may be the last time that attorneys are allowed to publicly discuss the case before a gag order is granted tomorrow, which defense attorneys favor.
It's odd that the office held their press conference, made a series of comments which both mis- and disinformed the public, then the following day came and requested a gag order to stop the defense from having an ability to make similar comments.
Torres-Stallings and Hennessy explained that the standard of proof at grand jury proceedings is much lower than the standard of being found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt required at trial.
We hear stuff like, we proved to the grand jury, they were convinced, they believed. That isn't the standard in which they make their finding. And so to us, it was to more clarify that that isn't the standard.
Hennessy also pointed out defense counsel and the accused are not present during grand jury proceedings and have no opportunity to cross-examine witnesses or present evidence. DA Zimmer said the DA's press conference was held to address questions by the media, given the high level of public interest, stating her office will have no further comment until a verdict has been reached. Now, the trial is set to start May 23rd. Tomorrow, there's going to be a hearing to discuss that gag order that prosecutors have requested. And if it is granted, then key details in this case will not be made known until the trial begins. For now, reporting live in downtown Bakersfield with Christian Galeno, 17 News.
All right, everybody. That's the sad information out of the YouTube queue. KGET News is the source. Feel free to go in the queue to give your commentary. So this is an issue of what was mentioned by the district attorney pertaining to the evidentiary material and how solid she feels her case is. Was it appropriate for Ms. Zimmer to say the things that she said as far as the evidentiary material? She believes that she's got it sealed up. Was it appropriate? I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, nor am I a judge, so I can't say what was appropriate or not appropriate because I do not fancy myself to be an expert in legal terminology. So the attorneys are basically saying she didn't have any business saying what she said. That perhaps she should have just gave the information pertaining to the indictment, which I don't know what she should have said and not said because, like I said, I'm not an expert in legal terminology, so I can't say what she should have said and not said. Was she just supposed to just say, well, we have sealed an indictment on the said charges and only just mention the charges themselves? And as I brought you commentary pertaining to the amended part of the indictment where there's something extra as far as the aggravation, I've brought you brief commentary on that. That was something extra added, which entails children being involved, the minors. So, as I said, you're entitled to your opinion pertaining to what was said. Some of you may be experts in the legal wranglings. I am not, so I can't say. Maybe that's the issue here. She was only supposed to just give you the charges, but not speak of what the grand jury would be doing and not doing. That I prove this to them. Obviously, the attorneys are saying that's not appropriate. That's not the standard. It's just her souping herself up to be re-voted in for her position as the district attorney for Kern County in California. So it is what it is. And you have a lot of people who like to stick strictly by the book, no matter if they believe that the clients are guilty, not guilty. The one thing I was thinking about yesterday is the actual allegations against Jacqueline and Trezell. Whether you believe they did it or not. It's just the fact of them walking around and have committed these crimes against said children. It's so baffling to me. It's so baffling to me. But this happens every day. We know this. People walk around pretending to be human, pretending to be nice, pretending to be whatever. But they're sociopaths. And the thing I was thinking of is the defense attorney's position. He or she is hired to represent his or her clients to the best of his or her ability. But is it at some point that said attorney says to him or herself, damn, this SOB is guilty. They did this. How do you sit there with them, talk with them, listen at them talk, feed you BS, because you know they will, and you ride the ride all the way to the end? You have to admit that it's a very daunting position to be in. But it is their job. And they're not to show any biasness as representing the client. But you have to admit that is a daunting job to be in, is to represent somebody who could have possibly murdered someone, plural. It's a very interesting dynamic. The defense versus the state versus the defense. Because I don't think a lot of people actually sit and think about the job of each party, what the state has to go through in bringing forth the case, the evidentiary material, the witnesses, forensics, said testimonies. Then you have the defense who also has to do the same. But in my mind, I was thinking yesterday, how does a person defend someone and back in his or her head, they're thinking to him or herself, yeah, this person did this. They killed this person, children, whatever. It's like, wow, you have to separate yourself from the crime and the person to do your job. So it's like you're compartmentalizing. How could you not? Because I'm wondering that. Do they say to themselves, I know he did this. I know they did this, but I've got to still represent him or her to the best of my ability. And I'm saying to myself, in some form or fashion, one would judge it as you'd have to be just as bad as crazy as the people you're representing. Because in your mind, you're thinking, how could you not see that something is off with these people? People in itself that are being accused, especially once you start getting the evidence and you're sitting in the court with the client and you're hearing the evidence. I always wonder, do the attorney say to him or herself, yes, they're guilty. I know my client is guilty. And do they ever tell their client, hey, I'm assessing the situation. I'm assessing the evidence. It's overwhelming. You need to take a plea. You need to bow out and do the right thing for yourself, whether it be get out of jail, prison at a late age in life, and or avoid the death penalty. But as we see in this case, it's in the state of California. There is a moratorium for the death penalty. So there is no death penalty. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So, interesting information. Tell me, what do you think? Were they, the district attorney, did she use the wrong terminology in this said information? Just curious. Oh, mercy. It's a very interesting situation. Thank you, Lisa. DAs can get quite egotistical too, really want that conviction under their belt. Some refuse to go back and revisit cases, even when DNA, new evidence shows they jailed innocent person. Well, that's a whole nother subject. I'm not going to really give my opinion pertaining to what was said by Miss Zimmer, because, as I said, I don't know what is allowed to be said and not said. So I don't really have an opinion at this moment. I don't really have anything to say pertaining to what she said last week. I can only go by what the defense has responded to, which is it wasn't appropriate, in their opinion, to basically say, I've got this sealed up tight and the grand jury concurs. But in the end, as they said, this is really ran by the district attorney, the grand jury. So therefore, you're going to have to take it to court, listen to what the DA has against your clients, and refute the information that she brings forward. So that is that. Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much for the super chat. But that's the basic of this live. I don't have any more information pertaining to what was said yesterday. It's about a 30-minute news conference. It's also in Spanish, so it makes it a little bit more winded because the attorney for Jacqueline interpreted the information also in Spanish. So that held the press conference a little bit longer, with her also doing Spanish commentary versus English. Most DAs are all about their conviction rating. I just hope they have concrete evidence and the criminal, which I think they are. Okay. Well, as I said, we will see when the court starts what the state has against Jacqueline and Trezell West. I'm sure they have, as off the cuff was speaking, pretty much solid information pertaining to these two, which would be the children, because that was mentioned in the indictment. The children, I believe, is their main source of information. I also believe there's going to be people telling that they saw these people walking around the community without said two children. Okay, thank you, sweetheart. Are you able to give a commentary, Crystal? Yes or no? Hold on one second, you guys. One second. Okay, you can't speak. Okay, that's fine. Well, all right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, that's the thing about trials. It's a flip of the coin. You're putting your faith that the jury will do their job, the district attorney will do his or her job, and that the defense attorneys will do their job for the client. Some people don't care what the defense attorneys do because of the heinousness of the crimes. But in all, it is the law that you are to receive a fair trial. You are innocent before being proven guilty. And that is the state's job. See, the burden is on the state to prove that you, he, she, they committed the said crime. It's not the defense's job. The defense is just there to refute whatever you're bringing forward. So we will see what happens in court, the information that they have. But it's just it's just crazy, the case itself. When I sit and think about what the indictment has said, people just ran with that information. And I'm sure she knew that's exactly what was going to happen. When she repeated what was in the indictment, that's all it took. That's all it took. I think even if she hadn't never said the things she said about the grand jury and the I've got it sealed up and blah blah blah, I'm just ad-libbing a little bit. People ran with it. I know, because when I was live, people were running in the chat like, "Oh, did you hear what they said? The kids were involved, blah 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 blah." And I hadn't even had time to digest any of that, hear that, and the first thing I thought was, "I'm never making this up." That was the first thing I thought to myself. "Oh, they're making this up. There's no way this is true." So it's just like, wow, this is crazy. And it was hard to understand that even during my live, because as I tell people, I don't repeat things just because somebody puts it in the chat. I don't work like that. If I didn't hear it myself, I don't repeat it. Because that's how rumors get started, and that's why a lot of cases are jacked up right now. It's because they were built off of gossip and rumors. So I don't repeat stuff in the chat on the live just because somebody said, "Oh, they said this." I go verify and then I repeat it back when there's a source. Once I went in, read the indictments myself to the best of my ability, then I realized, okay. And then I didn't read all of the indictment because farther down, it looks like it's repeating itself, so you will stop reading. But there at the bottom, that's where it's mentioning of the minors. So if you don't read every aggravation clause, it's pertinent that you read all of it, because it seems like it's repetitive. But that's where the minor is mentioned. And that's what threw me off at first when she gave a statement and I brought the information. It didn't have the minors mentioned in her commentary. So when people came in the chat, started talking about the minors, I was like, well, where are you getting this information? But it is what it is. It's out now. So there isn't a secret to the said information. It's not much you can do with anything. It is what it is. Well, good Lord, we should be able to trust public official like DA, but I guess we're not living in that world no more. Well, my thing is, like anything known to man, everything is built on a version. His, her version. What's the truth, not the truth? Somewhere in the middle is the truth, fact, fiction. It's all the same. You're entitled to what you believe, but everything that's mentioned in the world is a version. You're not worth anything but your word. I've heard that many times. That's all you're worth is your word. If your word isn't bond, you're not worth anything. Anything you say, it's either believable or it's not. It's either fact or it's fiction, part truth, part whatever. And it's also perception. Do I believe what this person is saying to me? What he or she is saying to me? You see, that's what every case is built on pertaining to true crime. Is a version and one's perception of the version. Do I believe what he or she is saying to me about the disappearance of their children? And then here comes the rhetoric, the opinions, the assumptions, the allegations, before you even get to court. And that's what causes the problems for the district attorney and the defense attorneys. It's the gossip and the he said and the she said. And I'm going to address the change of venue. Will they seek a change of venue? I don't know. But at this point, the fact that the case is now made it to local news and national news since the arrest of the parents, anybody in California that hadn't heard of the story, they now know of the story now. Because when the story jumped off a year or so ago, there were many people in California who had said they hadn't even heard that the children were missing. And that's expected in many places. And a lot of people don't watch the news. So that's one reason why people don't know of said stories in their general area, because they don't watch the news. And now dealing with the computer, cell phones, people don't have cable anymore. They have Wi-Fi instead of cable. So maybe they're only watching certain apps So they're not watching the nightly news, the 12 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, 11 o'clock news. So therefore, they're not getting the information readily as if they were watching the news before. And people used to watch the news, but people don't anymore. So therefore, when things break, a lot of people don't know unless they're getting it from Facebook or the Newsbreak or Breaking News app. I have the Newsbreak app. That is how I keep up with local stories and national stories. This is where I get a lot of my material from for my videos. I also get a lot of my information from the YouTube queue, from news agents in the queue. But if you don't watch the news, you're not going to know what's going on in America. You're not going to know when something broke, a story broke, an update to a story. See, and that's the problem now. The mindset of people is different. A lot of people don't really care about what's going on in the world. They're not in tune to what's going on in the world. So therefore, when a story breaks, they don't know because they don't care. And I'm seeing that with news here in Tennessee, Chicago, New York, wherever. A lot of people are just not in tune to what is going on in America. And that is going to be a problem because I talk to people all the time just in passing. And I'll say, did you hear about the little girl missing from Rogersville? Or did you hear about what's going on in California? And a lot of people don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. So you have to ask yourself, how do you live in the same state I'm in? How do you live in the same state, an hour away from where a crime 9 times out of 10 took place and you never heard of the story? Because let's be truthful, pertaining to Jacqueline and Trezell West, had there not been an indictment last week, plural, there still would be people in California that never heard of the story pertaining to the children and other places in the United States. So Court TV picks up the story. National syndicates pick up the story. So now it's spread around and people can hear the story. But had there not been an indictments, there still would be people in America that had no idea that the children were missing. And that now 2 people who are the adoptive parents have been indicted for their murders. It is what it is. But that's my said commentary. As I said, I don't have an opinion. Usually I have an opinion pertaining to said information in my lives. But at this moment, I don't have an opinion pertaining to what Ms. Zimmer said in the press conference last week pertaining to the indictments against Jacqueline and Trezell West. I don't have an opinion at this point. I'm just bringing you the said information by the attorneys for the defendants that they are not in agreement to what was said. They may possibly ask for a change of venue down the road. The trial is expected to start May 23rd of this year. We will see if the defense will be ready to start on time. If not, I'll bring you that said information and see what happens. And that's my said commentary pertaining to this case. Well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't know anything about this case. And there are always going to be cases that people don't know about. You're talking about 50 states with crime. There's no possible way that anybody's going to be able to keep up with a crime in every state. People are murdered every day. Children are missing every day. People are missing every day. So there's no way you could possibly keep up with everything. 2, depending on where you're hearing most of the information. A lot of information is brought up in the YouTube queue. So if people don't watch YouTube, they're not going to know of the stories. They're not going to know the people bringing you the content, alleged content pertaining to the story. 3, a lot of things are shared on Facebook. A lot of people don't look at Facebook. A lot of people don't share stories. A lot of people have Facebook, but they really don't read the content of what people are sharing. I know this personally. People just want to look at your pictures, comment on pictures, but that's the extent of it. Instagram, Twitter, same thing. If they're not signed up with Twitter, Instagram, then it just flies over their head. There's no interest. It's just the way it is. Change of venue is stalling tactic always employed first. Okay, well, I don't know. I can't say. I can't say. But as I said, the DA is going to have to pray and hope that no matter what they bring forward, be it eyewitness testimony from the children, neighbors, doorbell cameras, video surveillance from the house, DNA evidence, minus bodies, that 12 members will come to a sound decision to vote guilty on the said charges against Jacqueline and Trezell. But we have seen in some cases here stateside that no matter how overwhelming the DNA evidence is, surveillance, doorbell cameras, DNA, blood, whatever, the people voted not guilty. It can happen because it has happened. In Casey Anthony's case is a prime example of very good, solid evidence. I do believe the state brought forth good evidence in that case pertaining to that child, and the mother is now free. And one would have to ask, what the F went wrong there? What was it that you saw in that case that led you to say she didn't kill that little girl? Reasonable doubt. That's what it is. That's all it takes. Is for one person to think, no, they didn't do it. No, they couldn't have done it. I need more. I need to see more evidence that she committed these crimes. So that's why I said we will see what happens in court and see what the state has against Trezell and Jacqueline West. And let's just say it is testimony from the children that they exacted these crimes against the babies. You have to hope and pray that the 12 members will all say, yes, those children are telling the truth. It is what it is. But that's my set information pertaining to the defense attorneys for Trezell and Jacqueline West. They have spoken and they have brought forward information pertaining to this case that they are not in agreement to statements made by the district attorney's office. You're entitled to your opinion and perception of what was said by Ms. Zimmer. Is she trying to toot her own horn? Does she have an ironclad case? Did she give inappropriate statements pertaining to the grand jury and what they showed them and that they proved their case to them? In the end, you proved your case to them to get the indictment. But will you be able to prove your case to 12 members of a jury? That is what's going to count. Will you be able to prove your case to 12 members of a jury in the state of California that Trezell and Jacqueline West exacted the said crimes in the indictment against these two small children? That is what they will have to prove. And as I said, all it takes is one person to say, no, they have not proved their case. I don't think they proved their case, and hang the jury. I'm not hoping for that, but that is something one has to think about, because you're talking about the minds of 12 different people from different walks of life that don't know each other, don't know anything about each other, praying and hoping they don't know the victims or the defendants to give a sound and reasonable judgment in the case. So that's my set information pertaining to the comments by the attorneys for Trezell and Jacqueline. Later today, they will go before the judge pertaining to a gag order. They are both in unison, I believe, about the gag order. I do believe both parties are in favor of a gag order being issued in this case for the witnesses not to speak publicly about any said information. But I'm wondering how long, if that'll work or not, because people do have a tendency to talk. And as we've seen with YouTube, people will run out of breath to speak to people about things pertaining to a crime, alleged crime. And also people will reach out to said witnesses if they get wind that they're involved in a case or know of the victim, defendants, and ask said commentary. I thank you all so much for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $Big Angie 129 Cash App. Thank you for the super chats. God bless all of you. I will bring you commentary later today pertaining to a case out of Florida. I was thinking about going live again, but I'll probably wait because I'll probably just do back-to-back lives later today pertaining to a very baffling case out of Florida. I've posted the information to my community page about a woman that went missing out of Florida, and she was later found in her septic tank. It's a very bizarre case out of Florida. And also, I will be bringing you another case, I believe it's California, pertaining to someone who faked their kidnapping. So I thank you all for joining me. God bless all of you. Stay safe, and this is Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you.